Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to math. Today we're going to move on forward with what we learned from last class. We're going to put it all together. Last class we learned about E and how it becomes 2.71. Technically, when you round it up, okay, if we use the numbers after it, it's technically 2.72. Okay, that's what we're going to use today to actually plug in our numbers in case you don't have E. If you have E on your calculator or on your phone, that's even better. Okay, you don't really have to run anything up. But if you don't, then we're going to use it as 2.72. So the equation we're going to deal with today is y equals a e x. Okay, meaning a is always a number. Okay, e is just a variable, and x is what we're going to try to find out. We usually try to find it out with the table. Okay, so our problem for today is we're going to have y equals 2e to the x. We're actually going to graph this equation, okay, or this function. The way we do it is you have to plug in variables for x, okay? It doesn't give you that. You get to choose the variables, okay? So what I do is I do a little table. And then towards the end over here, I like to do one for coordinates. Okay, or h and r k, x and y. Okay, however you want to say it. H and k, x and y, f of x or g of x. Okay, it's up to you. Now that we have it here, we're gonna plug in numbers. I will say this, guys. Okay, make it a lot easier on yourself. Okay, always try to use numbers that makes your equation positive. Okay, start off with those numbers. In this case, since there's nothing next to the x, okay, it's just a parent graph. I'm gonna start off with 0. Okay, you might ask yourself, why 0? The reason why I'm using 0 is because anything to the 0 power is just 1. Okay, makes it a lot easier. So if we have 2e to the 0 power, e to the 0 power becomes 1. Because anything to the 0 power can be 1 to the 0 power, 5 to the 0 power, a million to the 0 power, is still just 1. Okay? Pi to the 0 power is the same thing, even with e. Okay? When it comes to the first power, okay, once we get here, it's another story. Okay, but for now, for 0 power, it's just 1. So 2e to the 0 power becomes 2 times e to 0, which is 1, which equals 2 times 1 is 2. So we have a 2 for y, because y equals 2. So 0 and 2 are our coordinates. Okay, that's our first coordinate. And now we're going to move on to our second coordinate. Again, we're going to use 1 this time for your exponent, for your x. So we have 2e to the 1. Okay. When you're dealing with 1 as an exponent, it's just the value itself of whatever it is. If it's 1 to the first power, your answer is 1. 100 to the first power is just 100. Pi to the first power is just pi. The same for e. E to the 1 power is, if you guys remember, for e we're going to use 2.72 on the calculator. If you don't have a calculator or a calculator that has e, we're going to use 2.72. If you have a calculator that has the actual variable e, it's even better, okay? Because it gives you a more accurate number. If you get a decimal number, okay, just plug in 2 numbers after. The third one round the second one 2, okay? So in this case, it's very simple. We have 2 times 2.72, okay? So 2.72 times 2 is Well, it should turn on first. 2 times 2.72 equals 5.44. Okay? So our y is 5.44. Our x, in this case, is 1. Okay? We're going to do the same thing for 2. We're going to have 2 e to the second power, which equals 2. E to the second power is just 2.72 times itself. Okay? Or if you have the calculator with the e, just plug into the exponent of 2. 2 times 2.72 times 2.72 times 2. You get 14.7968. Obviously, the 6 makes a whole number, so 14.8. Okay? If you use the accurate one for e, if you actually use a variable e, you get something close or similar. Okay? Obviously, you're going to be a few numbers off to what I got because you use the actual e. I used 2.72 for mine. Okay? For the ones that don't have e. But it's still the same purpose. Okay? So now we're going to use for x, we're going to use 2. Now that we have our 3 coordinates, we're actually going to graph it. Okay? Make sure you write everything down. Again, remember, every time you write the notes, make sure you have everything I read on the board. All right. So we're actually going to graph it. So we're going to turn this way a little here. I'm actually going to use the blue or the blue instead. We're going to make our graph. Notice that my graph, I did it a little bigger here because if you guys remember, the last number is a 14 point something. Okay. I'm going to go by 2s. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay? Here on the x-axis, since we use small numbers for our x-axis, I'm going to go by 1s. Okay? So we have 1. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? I'm not going to worry so much about the positive and the negatives on this side because our numbers are all positive. Okay? Plus, I'm trying to save a little bit of time. Now that we have our graph, our first number, if you guys remember, was at 0, 2. Okay? From your chart. I'm looking at it right here. You guys have it on your notes. So we're going to go to, on your x-axis, 0. And then we're going to go up 2, which is the first one. Okay? Because remember, we're going up by 2s, on the sides by 1s. 0 and 2 is the first number. Now, we're going to go on with our next one, which on the x-axis is 1, but our y-axis is 5.44. Okay? It's not going to be accurate 100% on your graph unless you go by every decimal point, should I say? So we're going to go 1, and then you know every other one is 2. So we have 2, 4, and then halfway is 5. So a little over half is 5.44. Okay? So little, almost in between 4 and 6. Okay? It's just a little closer to 6 than 4. That's our second point. And then for our last point, we're going to go 2. And if you guys remember, it's 14.8, almost 15. So we're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and it was a little over. So a little over, and then we're gonna go to 2. Okay? Now that we have our line on 2, we can actually connect them. Okay? The way we connect them is, if you would have chosen a negative number, it was gonna go down here. So technically our line goes something like this. Okay? Then makes a little curve. And there's our line. Okay? Obviously I messed it a little by a few centimeters there. It's okay. So we graphed all 3 points. Okay? Again, remember guys, if your calculator doesn't have E, you can always use 2.72. Okay? All right. So here's your assignment for today. Your assignment for today is, I'm going to give you y equals 1 e to the x. Okay? Again, you get to choose your own numbers. If you want to use negatives to make it a little more challenging, go ahead, okay? Again, if you still feel a little nervous about it, use the same numbers I used, okay? Because since it's a parent one, all of them always are positive when you use the numbers I use, which in this case is 0, 1, and 2, okay? That's the first one. For your second one, you have y equals 3 e to the x, okay? So 2 problems, just to make sure that you understand it, okay? Hint, hint. This is one more number bigger than mine, so your might have a little go higher than mine, okay? It's okay if you want to use bigger spaces in between. Instead of going by 2 sub, we can go by 5, we can go by 10, it's up to you, okay? But keep in mind, there's 2 problems to do. If you have any questions, let me know, okay? As soon as you're not watching the video, go ahead and send the answers to me. I'll be waiting for your email.